We're here today with Tom Wheeler, who we've been friends with through our local pickleball community for a while now. And we're so excited to have you join us and talk about your experiences through pickleball, which includes playing not just locally here, but in your previous homes and on the road. So we're really excited to dive into that and hear about your experiences traveling and playing.
Well, hopefully it will be somewhat interesting and not boring, but I'm happy that you asked me, and I'll be happy to tell you whatever you'd like to know.
Well, I can promise you just from the initial conversation we've had, I don't think anybody will find these stories boring.
I hope you're right.
You're completely blowing our minds before we even started recording. So
I hope you're right. Well,
this is exciting.
Yeah, this is very exciting.
I mean, my biggest thing now is, I'm trying to, I get solicited a lot about paddles. Who would you, hey, we have this new paddle. And you can see I only carry Onyx because they bought me. And I kind of started it when it was called Pickleball Now. And then Thrive, and only because the people there reached out to me and were super responsive when I needed stuff and just gave it to me.
That's so important.
And most people don't. And they did. And they built a really good product, and everything I've tested has been what they said it would be. But these are the newest ones. And see, like this is new. This is 22 millimeter. I don't think there's anybody yet out other than us with 22 millimeter. It's getting crazy. I said, pretty soon you're going to have a phone book.
Right.
But in playing with this, I found that the thicker it is, you do have a little more touch with it. And this is patented technology, so the frame, it's got a real frame in here, so it's really strong. But this retails for $140. They went down.
Yeah.
And these guys, this is their newest one, and it's still at $200. And I've seen some other companies that are now at $300, $400. It's crazy.
Right.
Because I just don't think the technology dictates that. And the other thing is, and you know this, you could give Tiger Woods a spoon, and he would be able to drive it farther than you can with a driver. Because it's him.
Right.
Or you can give Ben Johns anything to play with, and he'll beat you. My feeling is, to a point, you get what you pay for.
For sure.
And then after that, you're just paying to have Louis Vuitton or whoever you want, or Birkin or whatever. You're willing to pay a certain amount of money to have something to throw junk in.
It's mostly the
vanity.
user at that point.
Exactly. So I like the fact that both of these companies, Onyx is slow to bring out new stuff, but when they do, it's good. And it's something different, or it's patented.
Well researched.
Yeah, and with Thrive, everything so far that they've brought out has actually been something different. They had a Kevlar paddle.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up.
Beat up the Ruby. I mean,
like I think a lot at this point in the sport, it's more about the paddle face. Like you can play with a lot of different paddles, but I think a lot of people have they have a preferred paddle face. Graphite versus carbon versus Kevlar. Just the way it grips the ball, the spin you can get on it. I mean, I went from playing graphite to a carbon face, just because the grip that I can get on the ball from the graphite, I could get some spin. I mean, I could generate spin. The carbon face that I'm playing with now, like that, it really eats at the ball, and I feel like I get a lot more control and spin off of it. Even both of us play with 14 millimeter, which we've never tried a 22. I have no, I can't.
I've never tried a 22.
When I first got this, I went, oh my God, it's like a charcuterie board.
I mean that thing.
But it actually, for a beginner, I really like this for beginners. It has that rough paint texture, so it's not like graphite, so you get a little bit but it's big enough for two hands, which I like. A lot of women like that.
I use two hands.
I know you do use it, but I mean, a lot of women who don't have, you have the power to do anything, but these women, they use it because they don't, and so they like that. So for me, this solves that issue, and it was inexpensive. I mean, it's not, even though it's brand new and it's got all that, it's $140. So I mean, I thought that's great. So people like that. These guys have not. This is their new one, and it's now gone from Kevlar back to, the textured, graphite.
Okay.
But I've only played with this once yesterday. This thing, it was like shooting a cannonball out of there. It was so hard. People couldn't believe it, and yet I was able to control it.
Yeah.
That's a
So
great
that's
balance.
that's what I like, because
Right.
with my serves, I like power and I
Oh,
want
yeah.
spin, and this
Yeah.
paddle delivers. So this is 200. So here you're looking at a $60 difference, but they're for different markets.
Right. And that's, so both of us are reps for Carbon.
Right.
But like every time that I'm, if I'm teaching students and they want to demo the paddle, I'm like, you can absolutely demo the paddle. This may never, ever help you in the game style that you play.
Right.
Like it has to be specific. It's a specific to the game style that you play. She had me demo before I was even a rep. I was using a 16 millimeter, or she had me demo the 16. And I was like, this is
Too much.
I just didn't. It had to. I call it mushy. And then she put a 14 millimeter in my hand, and then I was like, this.
He was like a Doberman puppy.
That's what. Yeah, like
He couldn't get enough.
yeah. She was like, you can dink the ball. I was like, I'd rather just drive. I like the hand cannon that you just gave me, so I'm gonna use it.
Well, that was funny because Onyx has the raw paddle, and that was the first one, not the first one, but their first one that came out as a 10. Remember, I had you all try them: 10, a 12, a 14, and a 16. Mm-hmm. And the 10 is too powerful, and even our pros went to the 12 because they couldn't keep the ball in the court.
Yeah.
So it really did prove the point, though, that the thinner paddles tend to be more powerful than the thicker paddle. But then there's a compendium in the middle that you have to fine tune yourself. And some players, it won't matter what you give them. Other players, it definitely matters. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that I try to do as an instructor too, when I'm teaching beginners, most of them don't have paddles. And they go, oh, can I get a paddle? And I said, well, listen, first of all, I'll tell you, I sell paddles, but you don't have to come to me. You can go anywhere you want. I am not offended. But if you do come to me, I don't want you buying anything yet. I want you first to see if you like the game. And then secondly, I want you to try some stuff, because money is not the object here. It's whether the paddle works. And it might be that a $25 paddle is perfect for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they appreciate that, because most people always are trying to upsell everything.
Right.
And I'd rather have the person happy.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that you genuinely want them to come to the sport, enjoy the sport, and you're not here as a salesman. You're more like an ambassador for the sport.
Right, you're growing the sport. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's exactly it. I mean, yes, I want to sell paddles like any other rep does, but I also want my reputation to be out there where they go, he's honest, he doesn't always push to this. He's either a good instructor or not. And I've actually asked now the why to make up a rating sheet. I want to know what people think, not their names, but I just want to know, am I doing?
Feedback.
Yeah,
That's
because
important.
Yeah, because if I'm not doing something right, how do I know unless they tell me?
Right. Yeah.
Because I think I'm doing a great job, and they seem to like it, but I want to know for sure.
Right.
So it's all about, for me, growing the sport, getting more people in it, getting this community in it.
Well, that's the biggest thing. I mean, that's what I like. I love instructing. I love being a rep for a brand, for trying to sell paddles, but it's the community aspect that I love the most.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what I've seen how beneficial it is. I mean, we had an entire episode with Maggie Cowan.
She's great.
Yeah, where, I mean, we just spoke on community, where, I mean, so many people benefit from the local community, and, we can do so much more with it here.
And she's helped me a lot. I mean, she was the one who helped me do my brochure. She's what bought my paddles and tried them. She's been very supportive when I first started and knew nobody. She was the first, I think you were there, but she was the first person that I met at Snook Park, and just, oh, hi, let me get your name. And then she started sending me, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better ambassador to the sport.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's a connector. She's genuine. She's passionate.
And I think that's true. I mean, most of our group, I got to say, of all the people that we play with, they're all nice. And I played a little in Newcastle, I guess. Is that where the
Greencastle?
Greencastle, I guess, where the train tracks are.
Yep.
So I've come up there to play with some of those people.
That's our home court.
It's nice. I like it.
Great community there as well.
Everybody's been great.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, this has given me a second lease on life. And I tell people, because I heard it from Musk or somebody, that the racket sports in general add 9 years to your life. So you think about that. I mean, because you're constantly thinking, you're moving, you're acting. So this is a healthy sport. It's an inexpensive sport, and most all is fun.
Exactly. And pickleball really is a catalyst for plugging into community, whether it's your local pickleball community, like you just mentioned, or the traveling, instead of just being a tourist and staying sort of on the peripheral part of a new community. You're bonding with the locals through pickleball, and then you get to experience that area, that region, as more than a tourist, but actually plugging in because you have that pickleball in common.
And I think if you guys take the podcast on the road, where you're interviewing people on the road, and even just doing it as you're on the road, say, oh, look, we just almost went under that. I mean, doing all of those kinds of commentaries, like Charles Kuralt on the road again. Well, now you're doing it with pickleball.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody else is doing it.
It was like 3 days ago, decided we were going to start doing behind the scenes because
I
said this is a unique story in itself. Like what we're doing, like again, sleeping in a Nissan Armada, like waking up in a.
One day we'll look back on that as we're in our whatever RV and be like, oh, remember when? It's part of our story right now as we build this from scratch.
Literally from scratch.
And that's kind of the fun thing, taking something that nobody's done before and doing it yourself.
Right. You get your unique twist on it. I mean, we're headed down to Nashville.
Next month.
Yeah, next month.
Oh, that'll be
so
great.
Between Christmas and New Year's.
And there's got to be some singers down there that play pickleball. That's who you need to find. Like Kid Rock does. I know he does. Because I was asked, I almost did a paddle for him. He was good friends with somebody I knew in St. George, and I was going to do a paddle for him because I had done a paddle, and I cannot remember this guy's name, but he's a really good guitar player, and he plays up in Aspen a lot. And I made 2 pickleball paddles that looked like guitars. I mean, the guitar body, and this was the neck, and I had everything done graphically, and he showed them to everybody. He loved it. So you might find some people out there that you can interview.
I mean, she's already has me singing karaoke, last time. So maybe we can go meet Kid Rock. I'll sing with him. I'll get my music career started and the pickleball.
Well, I know he's in Detroit, but I mean, I know he plays.
Yeah.
And he has a bar on Broadway in Nashville.
They all do, yeah.
We should get him on the pickleball court while we're visiting.
You should go down and just make an open, say, hey, listen, we're doing a pot. Would you be willing to come? I bet somebody will.
We've already made some connections down in Nashville where they're like setting play up for us, which is amazing. Like again, I cannot speak enough to the community where it's like, hey, we're traveling down from this state. Oh, we would like to play pickleball, and they're like, oh, we'll line it up for you. We've got you. Like we'll get people.
All
out here.
I would like to tell you is when you finally get out to LA and you're doing there, I am available as an extra for movies. When you meet people, you can say, yes, he does have some experience.
Yep. And, his resume. Here's his resume. Here's his headshots.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think what you're going to do is great. And I think this is great, doing this and talking to people. And it'll be interesting to see. I actually did some videos way back when for my paddles that are on YouTube. And I looked at them the other day just to see if they were still there, which they are. And I mean, it's a hoot. Because you go back, and this was in 2010 or something when we were making paddles, and I mean, really goofy look. I mean, it's hard to look at myself, but they're there. So it's kind of, this will be fun. You'll have it there forever.
Well, and we're finding there's just so many unique stories that I know resonate with people, that are going to resonate with people, that even if they're not pickleball players, they can understand it. And I hope one of the hopes is to bring people into the community just based off of the unique stories that people have about their pickleball experience. I love talking about paddles. I love talking about, tournaments, but there's so many other, like your stories with traveling and, the other stories that we've had with individuals where it really does resonate with a much larger audience than people assume it would. So
I've always been a doer. I'm not so much like I got my pilot's license a long time ago. I don't care about how it works. I just care that it works. In other words, I'm not into building the plane. I want to just fly the plane. So I'm not as interested in as how they're made. I just want to play.
Yeah.
Right.
I want good equipment, but I'm not. That's not my hot spot. My hot spot are people. Mm-hmm. The people in the game.
Yep.
The playing of the game. Talking about a game that we played and some point that we made or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
That's for me the fun part.
That's the spark.
Right.
And that's the mutual bond that we all share.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think it's neat that there are people who really get off on talking about the actual mechanics.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
That's when I start drilling out, because all I want to know is it plays. I don't care how they made this.
Right.
Is this a good paddle?
Yeah.
And if it is, I want to play with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, everyone's got their little
We all
niche.
have our
within
That's
the
what
community
makes
That
itself.
inspires them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any other tips for other people that might want to travel throughout the country for pickleball, in planning their routes or tips and traps?
There are websites that you can get on, and if you're gonna get an RV or something to drive around, and you're not staying just in hotels, there are apps
that would be cost prohibitive for many
The
people.
pickleball dollars only go so far.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But there are apps you can get which you can put in the state that you want to go to. It'll list all the campsites. It'll tell you how much money they cost. There are maps you can put in so you can see where you're going. I mean, even Waze will now pretty much get you where you want to go. The thing I would do is always try to check ahead of time, look and see how the thing is rated. You know, what campground. I mean, there are some. I've been in one in Georgia that was so nasty. I mean, I almost wanted to sleep with a gun under my head.
Oh, no.
I mean, just because it wasn't. I mean, nothing ever happened, but
Right.
But the thing is, some of them are really grungy, and then I've stayed at some that are like, we were the cheapest one in there. There were motorhomes in there for $2 million.
Oh,
Beautiful places. So you can pick your level of luxury if you
Right.
want. There's
Right.
plenty.
Yeah.
I would say if you're thinking about doing it and you're young enough or you're rich enough or whatever, do it, because if you don't like it, you can always stop.
Right.
Maybe you might want to rent something first to try. Go out and do
Yeah, you can rent a small RV.
Oh yeah, you can rent. Well, you can rent the big ones too. I mean, and
Right.
you could take a 35-footer or a 40-foot out and go out and see if you're comfortable. Some people absolutely are terrified. Me, I didn't notice any difference. I just drove. I mean, because I'm driving the car, I wasn't worried. I knew what was behind me was going to follow me, so I didn't really worry about it. But other people are there, you know, they're really tense. So
Right.
you need to make sure that it fits, that you're doing it. You plan ahead. If you can be out and you want to be out for a year, go for the year. If you only want to do little spurts, then I would pick a hub to work from and then work off of that and see what's there that fits into your model of what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a really comfort level, and then your expectations out of. I mean, you go in with the expectations you have, and then build around.
And the other thing I personally would do, I would never buy a brand new motorhome, because it's like a boat. You put the money in. The best day is when you buy it, and the second best is when you sell it.
Right. As soon as you drive away, it depreciates.
And I had to sell both my truck. My truck went like that, but the RV took a time to sell because then it's used.
Right.
So what I would do is start out with a used one. You can buy really nice. Most people don't ever use them very much. You know, you'll see these motorhomes and they'll have 20,000 miles on them.
Right.
I mean, that's nothing. A diesel motor will last 1,000,000 miles. So you just want to get something that fits your lifestyle. But I would probably go used. But I think before I do anything, I would rent one and say, okay, yeah, we really like this. Or
Right.
are you willing to open the slides every morning and put the jacks down and do all the stuff you have to do, hook up the
Right.
water, hook up the sewer, which is no fun.
Because everything looks good on paper.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's
But
so.
you just have one of
yeah.
those hoses break one time, and you know the next time you're going to be in a hazmat suit. You know, so you get used to it. But I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, yes, there's work to be done. You have to maintain them. You know, you want to make sure that everything's working. You know, you just don't go off and drive.
Yeah.
So there is work with it, but it's a blast. I mean, and just the people factor and seeing the country. I mean, I had no idea how big this country was until I drove the whole way.
Or how big, like you mentioned, each state might be.
Oh my God. You go through Texas. I mean, I went from Houston to El Paso, and it was like, well, because I was stopping, but it was 3 days. I mean, I'm still in the same state.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Or you go like across Kansas or Iowa, and all you see is corn. You know, corn.
More corn.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned the people in each place. How much outreach do you recommend doing in advance versus just spontaneously plugging in when you get there. Like, we've done some research already. We're planning a trip to Nashville next month for pickleball. So we started reaching out to a couple of people there so we can plan our trip. But part of it, we definitely want to be spontaneous and meet people there. Do you have any recommendations for a balance between the planning of the people versus spontaneously plugging in?
What I would say is, even in being spontaneous, you can still plan it, and because you're not sure who you're going to meet. But for example, if you're an ambassador, what you can do is call the ambassador and where you're going and say, listen, we're coming. What's around? Just give me an idea of what to look for.
Our brand ambassador, like local brand
other
ambassadors.
brand ambassadors, paddle
well,
ambassadors.
That's true too. You can find if they're around.
Yeah.
They may not be everywhere, but certainly pickleball will be everywhere. And you can say, okay, we're coming on this week. Is there anything? A, should we be coming at this time? B, can you introduce us to people? Is there anything? And I got a call literally yesterday from somebody who wanted to play at the courts in St. George, Utah. Now, I don't live there anymore, but I'm still listed.
Right.
So he called me and I said, okay, well, here's what you can do. You can call this person. I know that they play these times. And by the way, Little Valley is right down the road. There's 34 public. He was ecstatic that I gave him the information. I'm still passing out information for a place I don't even live in.
Yeah.
So
one contact leads to the next.
So I would definitely call people and just tell them you're coming. I mean, there may be some place, spontaneously, let's stop here for the night, and you find out that there's some pickleball.
Yeah.
But I think if you want to really either represent your brand or represent your podcast or whatever, call ahead and talk to people, because you're going to do it for anybody that calls you here.
Absolutely.
You're going to tell them all about the area. Well, they're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And people get excited, like how we're excited to have people come to our area and introduce them to the local pickleball community.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I don't think you're going to have any trouble at all. And the people really are nice. I mean, I have never lived in the South. I mean, like I say, I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I've lived overseas, and I've always had a image of the South of being a nasty place to live, Well, you think that because you hear about all the problems we've had in history. Well, I went down to Alabama, beautiful state. People couldn't have been nicer. I mean, it totally turned my view around of being out in the South. Georgia, Louisiana. We went to some place, a hole in the wall in Louisiana, found this we were sleeping literally under a highway in an RV park, but they had this honky-tonk off on the side. We went there that night. Man, they're jamming and having a great time. We're listening to music, having a ball. I said, we would have never found this.
Right.
We just happened upon it. So, I mean, those kinds of experiences you're going to get by the bucket loads, and it's just you're not going to want to come home.
It might be the pickleball nomads for a long time.
You're going to just keep traveling, Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be here, really, if my kids weren't living down in Urbana, I wouldn't be here either. I would still be out west because it's just so much nicer in terms of the view. The people are really friendly. The first time I moved out there and somebody would say hi, I would reach for my wallet thinking they were trying to pickpocket.
Right, yeah.
They were just nice.
That is a huge difference between going from East Coast to...
Oh my God. And that's what's kind of fun about the travel too. When you do that, you're going to see these subtle differences as each day things change a little bit in terms of how people talk, their mannerisms, everything. And it's kind of fun to watch it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So I think you'll like it.
Oh, it's going to be great. We're very excited.
Well, good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for asking me. I hope I was of some interest.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no. Your story's amazing.
I love your story.
Yeah.
I could talk forever hearing about all your travels.
Well, if you ever get out there and you do see Zach, you can say hi for me.
Yeah,
when you get out there. Say,
you played
with this guy Wheeler. And he'll go, I don't know who the hell you're talking about. But